Hey folks, it is 3:03, so in the East at least, and so we're going to get going here. Um, so my name is Kevin Justman. I'm here with RoadSync. I'm our Director of Strategic Accounts. So I'm planning on kind of running through a mock transaction workflow here with RoadSync for everybody to understand, how we are able to help our customers. So we do a few different things, ultimately with the goal of simplifying and expediting payments within the logistics industry. That can look like a few different things. So, specifically, really we're going to focus on credit card transactions and ways that we can help prevent and mitigate the risk of credit card chargebacks or invoicing disputes where a service job has been completed, has been paid for, and then the payer disputes the charge with his or her credit card company. And then we're also going to show you what we can do with com checks, EFS checks, the fleet checks as a whole. We're able to digitize those, process them in about 20 seconds to keep you and your clerks off of the phone, and really just free up everybody's time, as well as automatically depositing those directly into your bank account. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. So this is RoadSync with the yellow and black bars at the top. You'll see there's a few different tabs here, and we always recommend the flow starting with work orders. So let's say for a roadside repair job, you have a trucker on the side of the road calls in and says, "Hello, my truck is broken down on, I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, so broken down on the side of 85, I-85, just north of Atlanta." You say, "Okay, great. We're going to dispatch a technician, but before we do that, we will be sending a work order authorization form to you to execute." So what we're going to do is we're going to start with new work order authorization. So what the purpose of this form is to disclose rates. One of the more common invoicing, credit card chargeback disputes rationales is, I had no idea that this service charge was going to be so much. I thought the rate that they quoted me was a flat call out fee. Had no idea that that was a per hour rate. I will not pay for it because they lied to me or they didn't disclose it. So what we're doing is we're protecting you on the front end with a work order authorization form that fully discloses rates, as well as getting a signature. So we have the ability to have a reference number to cross-reference into maybe an inventory system or a dispatch software, so that we can tie everything together. So I'm just going to enter in a number. Let's say, a lot of these types of folks who may be trying to charge back a dispute or dispute a credit card transaction, they may be an owner operator or smaller fleet type of customer. So I'm going to say this is my truck company, Kevin's Trucking. We're dealing with Kevin himself. And then we're going to either text or email this to the driver on the side of the road, or if they say, "Hey, actually send that to the owner of the truck, he's going to authorize or she's going to authorize the transaction," then you can do that as well. So I'm going to enter in my email address here. And then we do also have the ability to preload some work order templates for you. These are fully customizable. So if there's typically all of my contract customers get this work order, my non-contract customers get this other one, or if, we're just doing a tow, so it looks a little bit different, then we can do that as well. So let's say this is a non-contract work order. Rather than sending it to recipient, that's what we would normally do. So we would send it to somebody, they'd pull it up on their phone or computer or tablet or whatever and execute with a stylus. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to click authorize here. So we see all of this information. Here are the disclosures: service fees, call out fees, hourly rate, shop expenses, etc. And then I'm going to sign here, hit submit. This updates in real time. So even if this were the driver on the side of the road updating, we would get a real-time notification that the work order has been signed by the customer. So this is a really important step in the road sync process to ensure that the chargeback reasons or rationales that, hey, I had no idea the rates were going to be so much, that's out the window at this point. So our customers are on the front end pre-protecting themselves for anything like that. So let's fast forward in time. Work order authorization has been executed. We dispatch a technician to go do a service. And so then, 4 hours later or whatever it might be, we need to dispatch or we need to send an invoice for payment. So then we're going to come over here and invoice straight from this work order. So it takes me over to this other invoice tab. You didn't even see that. It just jumped right into it. Pre-fills the driver information. Again, we had Kevin's Trucking. Here's my email address. That's where we're going to be sending some information. So then I'm going to hit save and continue. At this point, we get to really the second kind of bullet in our arsenal to prevent credit card chargebacks. Another very, very common industry chargeback reason is, hey, yeah, they did the service, but quite frankly, it was a horrible job, and I'm not paying for it. Well, if we can create some evidence or show some evidence that that's actually not the case, that the job was done satisfactorily, with photos, maybe a before and after, maybe some documentation photos of parts. That then gives us a really good case to fight those chargebacks, which by the way, we actually fight those chargebacks on behalf of our customers. So unfortunately, in the industry that we live in here, chargebacks are not really an if, they're a when. And so you have peace of mind knowing that we can win those on your behalf, and then you don't even actually have to deal with Visa or with MasterCard or American Express. Also worth noting, RoadSync is app-based, it's cloud-based, so if you have technicians on the side of the road, they can access us on their smartphones. If they are on a tablet or on a laptop, they can create all of this information. If you're on a tablet or a smartphone, you can actually take photos right here. You'll have an option to use the camera and take photos at this point. I am on my laptop here for demonstration purposes, so I would need to browse and upload, but there is the option to just take pictures right then and there through the RoadSync application. So let's pretend that I've attached some photos. So now we've got work order authorization where rates are disclosed, acknowledged, and signed. And now we have documentation, proof that the job was done and done well. But I'm going to hit skip for now, pretend we added some. And then we get to how is the driver paying. So at the very top of our webinar here, we discussed really two payment methodologies. Fleet check, com check, EFS check, T check, or credit card. So I'm going to, again, just for demonstration purposes, show fleet checks, and then I'll come back and run through an example credit card transaction. So let's say the driver's paying with a fleet check. We accept all the major fleet check types. The US Bank is branded Voyager, so you may see the occasional Voyager check, although certainly the top three and even these two, com checks and EFS checks, are the most common. So what we're doing here is we are replacing a paper fleet check, a paper com check, paper EFS check in its entirety with a digital check number. So we're going to tell the driver or the payer, if it's the owner of a truck who's maybe somewhere else, we're going to say, hey, how would you like to pay? Okay, you want to pay with an EFS check? Okay, great. We will send you, we will either text or email you a check number to authorize funds to. So I'm going to hit EFS check. And then at this point, I had my email entered in. And so now I have been emailed on my second screen here what our check number is. So from a payer's perspective, the muscle memory of paying with a com check or EFS check remains almost unchanged. The only thing that changes is rather than getting an express code from their dispatch or whomever and authorizing it and tying it to a paper check. They're now tying that to a digital check number. Everything else that they've always done with express code and funds, they still continue to do. So from an adoption perspective, the truck driver, folks are always hesitant to change, but it's very, very similar to how they've done. And then they get the benefit of saving some time that you guys will also get the benefit of. So I'm going to hit confirm and continue. This is our check number. And then at this point, we have the ability to build the invoice. So, knowing that we have customers kind of all over the map in size, we work with very small repair and tow shops. We also work with some of the largest enterprise level repair and tow companies in the US. We can do one of two things. If you would like to build the invoice here in RoadSync, we can customize these tiles to have your call out fee, your per mile fee, maybe a few different of your most common maybe parts that you would be using, or just tires, etc. And so then you can build the invoice. There's a call out fee. It was 3 hours round trip, and then this was, let's say it's a 71 mile trip. And so then at this point, we've built our invoice. But we also know that many of our customers have another invoicing software, and it may be tied to inventory, and there's a whole level of granularity that we don't even want to touch. A lot of times that works really well for our customers. And so that invoicing software may spit out a number, and then you can just say, okay, the job here is 655. And so we're just going to enter in just the blanket number, knowing that there's a PDF that we could even attach with the full line item breakdown from the other invoicing software. I do draw your attention to the convenience fee. So we do charge a convenience fee. That's how we make our money. But what 90 to 95% of our customers do is they actually pass that fee on to the driver so that RoadSync can become a fully cost neutral solution for our customers. In essence, the driver is paying your platform fees. So I'm going to hit checkout customer. Again, as I mentioned, driver still needs to provide an express code. So in this instance, how we're kind of running this transaction, maybe the driver is giving this over the phone to your folks back in the office, or giving it to the technician, him or herself, on the side of the road. Regardless, they have to provide the express code. So we're going to enter the express code. Just like on the paper check, there is a field for driver's license number and state. So now I'm going to hit charge. So at this point, you'll notice that this is a currently processed little status bar. So what RoadSync is doing is we're verifying that the express code that was given to us is A, valid, B, there's sufficient funds to cover this full 674.65, and then C, we're actually pulling the authorization code on the back end. You'll never see that, it lives with our data, and then we'll be able to confirm that the funds and the check are good, and we'll guarantee those funds. It takes about 20 seconds, and here's our little green check. So now at this point, this removes the step of having to call in and talk to Comdata, talk to EFS, maybe deal with prompts, which don't always work if the IVR is down. This enables you guys to save quite a bit of time. Typically that's 5 minutes or so on average on the phone for those checks. We do it in 20 seconds. And so actually this is one reason that drivers are happy to pay, because they get rolling quicker, which is obviously how they make their money. And so then that's kind of a win-win for everybody. So that's the fleet check component. I did kind of start by going through a credit card type of transaction and discussing the chargeback mitigation, risk mitigation, etc. So I'm going to go back and go through another example here. So let's do another work order, right? We always want to start with a work order because that's kind of step one in preventing a chargeback. So let's say this is Kevin's Trucking again. Here's Kevin. I'm going to enter in my email address once more. I'm going to say this is non-contract. I'm going to authorize it here, although as we had discussed, normally this would be texted or emailed to the person. So I'm hitting submit. Again, now this has been completed. We're going to dispatch a technician. He or she goes out, completes the service job, and then we're going to fast forward in time a few hours to where we actually need to invoice and receive payment. So I'm going to hit invoice. Again, pre-fills the information. Now we're going to attach photos. That's the second bullet in the arsenal. So we've got work orders, check. Now we've got photos, before and after, parts, any other sort of documentation, check. And now, rather than, this may sound a little counterintuitive, but I'll walk you through, rather than clicking credit card and then typing in the credit card number that they may give you over the phone, that can open you as an organization up to chargebacks. A credit card over the phone is one of the highest at-risk types of transactions because it gives the cardholder plausible deniability to say, hey, that was not my card. I did not authorize that transaction. I have no idea where that came from. Someone else may have called it in, but I definitely did not authorize that transaction. So rather than entering in the credit card that way, we're going to use what we call remote checkout, which is where we send the link, the invoice link, to the payer to enter in information themselves. So I'm going to hit remote checkout. There's no convenience fees. We do have a slight difference in, there's no convenience fees yet, I should say, because we have a slight difference in our fee, whether it is a fleet check or a credit card. And so we don't know how the payer is going to pay. By sending the link, it gives the payer the option of, either paying with a fleet check, paying with a credit card, etc. So let's say we're going to build the invoice here because I did not do that prior. 71. And so now I'm going to hit send to recipient. Notice I'm not selecting charge. There's nothing to be charged yet. We don't know any information about the payment methodology, so I'm just sending it. It does ask us to verify who we're sending it to. This is an important step. Certainly, it's pretty common for not the truck driver himself or herself to pay. And so at this point, we say, hey, this is who I'm sending it to. This is your cell phone. Are you going to be the one paying? And say, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to. Could you please send that to the owner of the truck? She's going to be the one paying. Okay, great. So I'm going to hit send. You'll notice it's this little kind of paper airplane icon. Invoice has been sent for payment. Nothing's completed yet, so we do need to ensure that the truck is not released until this turns green. But this now means that it's been sent and it came over in my other screen here. So let me pop this out so that everyone can see it. So I just received this email. My invoice, this would be your company name, is ready. Click the link below to complete payment. Got it. Okay, perfect. Pay invoice. Popped open on my other screen again, so bear with me. So now we give them, the payer, the option to select how they would like to pay. We saw a fleet check. Essentially, that would go through the exact same functionality as it did before. So the payer, would be entering in the express code themselves. We would be providing them a check number again, and then it would still say take that same 20 seconds or so to validate the three things: validate that there's a proper express code, that it's a valid express code, validate that there are sufficient funds attached, and then pull the authorization code behind the scenes. But for this example, I'm going to hit credit card. And so now the payer is entering in the card information themselves. So you'll never see their card number. And what we're actually doing here is the third bullet in your arsenal, so to speak, in addition to the work order authorization, in addition to including photos, documentation of the job done and done well, we are able to track the IP address of the person who is entering in their credit card information. So what we're doing is we're able to tie the credit card number back to the person who's actually entering in the information. So the third most common, or one of the other most common rationales for disputing a charge is, as I mentioned with the phone number or credit card number over the phone, is, hey, that's my card number, but I did not authorize that transaction. I am not paying for it. We now are able to track that I'm entering in my credit card number, I'm entering in my own expiration date, 3 or 4 digit CVC code, as well as zip code. This is your signature as well. We know that this device is yours, and we are ensuring that this was not a fraudulent transaction and the fees are owed. So then at this point, this is a fake credit card number, so it's not going to go through. But if it was a true transaction, this would turn to green in as little as 2 seconds. So, it's a very, very simple transaction, and really from start to finish, I'll show you another invoice here. Just build another invoice, sans work order, although we always want to start with that, just to show you how quick this is. So I'll do one more Kevin's Trucking. I'm gonna hit save. We'll attach some photos. Remote checkout. It's a custom job for $600. Sent to recipient. That's the entire process of actually sending an invoice. So we want to make sure there's a work order on the front end, but then when it comes to the actual invoicing process, that's it. So now that's been sent to the payer. They do need to go in and enter that information on their side. So from a operational logistics training perspective, we do encourage our customers not to release a truck until this has turned green. But then your job is done, and we just sent that invoice and did everything in under 10 seconds or so. One final thing to show everybody, and then Krista, I think you had messaged me, there's a couple of questions, so happy to answer those questions. We are able to then, from an accounting revenue reconciliation perspective, provide really the full backing data of anything that was entered in RoadSync and tie it back to transactions. So we'll deposit these funds directly into your bank account, and along with that, it's not just going to be, the lump sum and then figure out where that those funds need to be allocated. We will provide a report as well. So I'm just going to pull an example report. I'm gonna hit generate here and then download CSV. So it does pop out in CSV. I'm gonna open it in my Microsoft Excel. If it's working, my go-to webinar is slowing down everything here. There we go. So we see all of this information, all of the backing data, right? Depending on how we had entered, there's been lots of different demos on this account. All of this information is going to be provided to you so that when you see a total amount, you're not just stuck with a total amount. It's able to, reconcile and give your accounting folks, an easier time. So now at this point, that's about all I've got. So Krista, if you don't mind kind of chiming in and reading what those questions were, that would be great. And if there are anyone else who has some questions, you can submit them. I believe there's a chat question and answer situation.
Absolutely. So far we've got 2 questions. The first one is, how long does it take to implement RoadSync?
Gotcha. Yeah, great question. It can take really just a couple of days. There is some kind of initial onboarding and setup where we will build all of the data points, what data fields that need to be tracked, whatever salient information you want to have attached to all of your invoices, as well as helping build and customize those work order authorization templates. And then there is we are able to connect bank accounts through micro deposits so that we ensure we're depositing funds into your proper bank account. And so that can take a day just from a bank perspective. So I would say really 48 to 72 hours and you're all set up and ready to go from like an onboarding perspective.
Awesome. And then the second question is, what does training look like?
Perfect. Yeah. So kind of related to onboarding and setup. Once we have your account live and active, we can do a training session in, as little as a half an hour. You've essentially seen what training looks like at this point. we would kind of run some mock transactions through your live account so that your technicians or your clerks or whomever is actually going to be using RoadSync at your particular organization would be able to do some actual kind of on the job, so to speak, training and run some transactions through RoadSync. So that can take as little as 30 minutes. Typically, it's an hour. If you have a great deal of folks who would be using RoadSync, we can train over the course of a couple of different sessions. But generally, it's very quick, and as you can see here, it's a pretty straightforward process.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Well, that was all the questions that we have so far. We can leave it open for a few more seconds just to see if any more questions come through.
Perfect.
All right. And I'm not seeing anything yet.
Okay. Well, very good. Everybody, I definitely appreciate your time here dialing into our webinar this afternoon. I've got 3:29 Eastern, so certainly be on the lookout. We'll follow up with folks, make sure everyone has you didn't have any questions that didn't get asked. And I believe we'll be doing webinars again in the future, just to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to see RoadSync and see what we can do for the logistics industry. Well, perfect. So, Krista, since I believe this is your meeting, quite honestly, I'm not sure how to shut this off. So,
Oh, well, I will go ahead and close it out. Thank you so much for your time, Kevin.
yep. Thanks, everybody.